Hello everyone, here we begin to another part of today's lecture where we will be moving ahead in the class and look forward to the portion that we have to cover from the perspective of the business, political and the legal system. So we were having a discussion about the three type of the economical system and we have been through all of the three. Now we know what are the plan, market and mixed economy. If I wanted to know or if I just wanted to get a revision for myself and may I ask to submit. So what are the three type of the economical three type of the economic system? Would it be okay to answer to me?
There are three
Hello.
types of economic systems. The first one is planned economic system, mixed
Hmm.
economic system, and uh, mixed economic system, and marketed economic system.
Okay. Siddhant, would it be okay if you explain this three to me? Okay, difference between all of them. Hmm.
I'm not sure about this.
Sorry, you want me to revise it again, or what has happened? Like what?
Yes.
You were not able to understood it, or what?
Could we go over it again?
Sure. May I request you that if there would be anything just like that, you can or you can stop me or can ask me to repeat it again if there is anything that you're feeling something not understood. Okay. So there are the three type of the economic systems are there. But the economic system, I mean how a economy works in a country. Okay. And there are the three type of the economy that we have to learn: the planned economy, the market economy, and the mixed economy. The planned economy says that it is one type of the economy where the government play a major role. Government first allocate the national resources, okay? Then the government basically owns and manage the major business in the economy. So if there is an economy where the government is looking over managing or owning the major businesses in economy, first thing. Second thing, where the government is making the allocation of the natural resources, it is one type of the economy that is known as the planned economy, okay? At the start of each year, the government basically plan up the certain things. What are the activities that are controlled by them? What are the major business they are controlling, and how the allocation of resources will be taken by them? Okay. The example are socialist countries like China and Russia. The market is another type of the economy, market economy. This is allocation of resources, which is decided by the market force over the demand and supply. Private individuals runs business. Prices are set on the basis of how much people are willing to pay for and how much people are willing to sell for. So, do you know what is the demand and supply? Suppose there is an XYZ project. If someone willing to pay 100 rupees for the same price, same thing, and this is the rare resources, someone willing to pay 100 rupees for this when the original price is only 70 rupees. The original price of XYZ is 70 rupees, but someone is willing to pay the 100 rupees. So the new price that will be set will be the 100 rupees because this is basically the demand of the rare product. So the price of the product in an economy, there is a production, right? The consumption production. So when I talk about the consumption production, so the price of the commodities or the essential good will be defined by the what is the demand of that product, what is the supply of that product, and what the buyer is willing to pay for something, and what the seller is willing to get or willing to sell the product for. Okay, the countries like USA and the UK will be the example of the capitalist economy. Okay, it could possible that planned economy can also known as social by the economy which is basically run by the socialist economy. Okay, It could also possible that at the place of the market economy, they might use this in capitalist economy. So when I do say capitalist has an inbuilt about when they talk about the market, and market also runs around two things: the demand and supply. If we talk about the mixed economy, here the government and the private sectors will be playing the major role. So if I say or ask you a question that in an economy of India, for an example, right? It would be okay for you to understand that economy of India, there are some activities, some industry which are going to be managed by the government, right? Hana? There are some industry which are going to be managed by the private individuals. Now the private individuals are basically like the people. It can also include the various companies, like the big companies who are there into the market. Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Siddhant, are you there? Please acknowledge it. Huh?
Yes.
So the government and the private individuals. So this is one type of the economy where the government and the private individual both would be playing a major role. Can it possible that in a market economy, a government would be having a play? Yes, the government can have a play, but it will be very minimal. Okay. Okay. The government would not be having enough power to have an influence over the economy. Okay. And the vice versa over in a planned economy. So it is basically the mixture of the mixture of both the above type, where there is a suitable balance between the public and the private based on the condition of the country. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Would it be okay if you explain this to me now? Are we recording this or not? Yeah. Just quickly revision of go through of the things that I have been very vocal about now. It would help me that you have understood it.
So there are three types of systems. One is planned, one is market, one is mixed.
Economic
In
system.
planned,
Basically, you have to be very clear. These are the economic systems. They talks about how an economy will be running in a country or a different country. Okay.
yeah. So in a planned system, the natural resources are allocated by the government. The government owns all the resources and they run all of the big businesses. So this is mostly seen in socialist countries like Russia and China. Then we have the market system where the resources are allocated by market forces, so demand and supply that you said. Uh, so all the businesses are the businesses are not run by the government; they're run by individuals, and all the prices are set based on how much people are willing to pay for them.
Wonderful.
So this
And
would be like the example.
sure. Siddhant, I really
The
respect
example.
what you have been very vocal and you have said it correctly. But there's just one thing that I wanted to make it clear, because in the law, what you're reading, what you're understanding is going to matter a lot. Okay. So you have to think before you speak, like what do you say? A system, calling it a single system would make it a huge difference, right? So better to call the full word. I think it would be good. If I just say there are three systems, which system I'm talking about, okay? Just a little correction, and I think this will save your 10 to 15 marks of development. Okay,
Yes, sir.
please, thank you. So when we are talking about the business, political, legal system, that is basically having an influence over the economical system. Then we have the three type of the economical system: the plan, mix, and market. So if we ask you which one is of India, so if in India, so which one is the economic system that you would be having? The plan, the mix, and market. Now you know the difference between the three, and would you like to try it? Whether the government is playing the major role here or the private individuals are there.
It is mixed in India. It is a mixed economic system.
I think you're correct. So they are having increasing interest in the government to privatize the government business. So basically, what the government is now moving toward giving some of their industry portion which they were controlling to the private action. Just one of the examples is railway, right? Now you will see the private individuals are getting into the railway as well. But till now, the government was a solely individual who was overlooking this industry. Yes, but now the government is privatizing that. But if we talk about the current scenario, then it will be the mixed economy that we are following. Okay, because they are the government as well. They are the private individual. Just SIM network, right? In India, there is in Jio. We also have BSNL, but you will see that BSNL is we probably will not be using this BSNL because of the network issue. So if we talk about the government is managing 95% of the railway industry, and the Jio itself is measuring 60 or I don't know, maybe 50% of the industry, or either the Jio, either the Airtel, or either the Vodafone, which is now on the way of winding up. But ultimately, if you see the network system, which is still under the control of the two individuals, the Airtel or the Jio is looking after that. Is that okay? Have you understood the difference between the three, or what is the perspective? How do we look around them?
Yes.
Now we will learn about the political system. So it was something that we have understood till now. What we have been through, we have seen that there is an interrelationship between the economical, political, legal system. And we have seen that there is an economical system, and there are the three types of the economical system: the planned, market, and mixed economy. And we have, for our knowledge perspective, we know that which economy are we into in India. This might not be a question, paper, because they will not be talking about very specific to the country. But still, this is something going to be benefit when you basically look around which type of the economic system are in India. Okay. If we talk about the political system, so what is a political system? Basically, this is a framework of the politics, right? What is the political scenario? What is the political influence over the country? We'll be talking around into the political system. There is a one country that is known as in Afghanistan, right?
Yes.
Okay, there is one more country that is known as Baltistan, right? Which has recently declared the independence, huh? Yes or no?
Yes.
And do you know basically the overlook of this country is Afghanistan and Baltistan? Do you think that there is a voting scenario that everyone would be coming and voting for their leader? No, this is not following in these two countries. These are the example I'm taking for a reference, but the voting system is not there, right?
No, it's not there.
So there will be some monarchy who is going to appoint a leader for themselves, and that leader will be guiding you everything from small to small, from large to large, right?
Yes.
So this is what the political system of the Afghanistan and Baltistan, right? Someone from the military has become the government itself. So this is basically, they're talking about like how the authority is coming, how the authority is driving from. Hello? Hello? Siddhant, are you there?
Yes.
Siddhant, may I ask you one question, please?
Yes.
Is there anything that you want me to change in the teaching methodology, because I think you are not able to understand, or is there anything that you are facing issue with? Or we are
No,
good to go?
good to go.
Is there anything that I can do extra for you so that you better understand the things, or there was some problem at your side only?
No need.
All right. So please do let me know if there is anything, because ultimately I'm spending a time for you. I'm just giving you time, and so that if there would be any doubts, so we can clear it. But it would be better if we clear it right now in the class only, so you won't be having an issue later. Okay. Sandeep, for you too, if there is anything that you wanted to discuss about the current topic that we're discussing, you can just put a stop on me. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now we were having a discussion about the political system. So what is a political system for you? Political system is basically representing the politics, right? What is the politics? How the authority is driving from in a country, you know? Then we had a discussion about the Afghanistan and Pakistan, you know? If you can
Yes, sir.
read one, so these are the pointers about the political system. A political system can look like one. it could look like two. Okay, would it be okay to read the very first point which is there?
Could be a dictatorship where leaders are self-appointed either by a military coup or a monarchical hierarchy.
So isn't the same thing that we were discussing about the Afghanistan and Afghanistan, that where it could be the dictatorship, means while a leader is basically appointed by the military corps or monarch hierarchy. Hierarchy is basically representing you, who is at the top, who is at the, that coming up. Okay, hierarchy
Yes.
basically shows you the sequence that or the framework that is there, the framework on the basis of the authority which has been given to you. So the people who will be at the top will be having the highest authority, and in most of the time, this will be the one who will be the dictatorship. Dictatorship is basically the process where one individual or probably the leader guiding the people who are coming within it that what need to be done. Okay, are you okay with that?
Sir, self-appointed by military means
Okay,
the
okay,
military will
I will guide it.
appoint a person.
So either you can, so sometimes there is a democracy thing, right? Where you have a right to choose, where the people have a power to choose their government by voting them. है ना? But in the case of the Afghanistan and Afghanistan, there are no individual who is going to vote for the military, right? They will not be going further. There is a no election thing that is going to be taken, uh, going to happen there. What is going to be happen? The military is basically the group of the people or the military, and the leader among them will be chosen as a leader of the dictatorship. It supposedly be the one who is an eldest one there, who has in more power, who has a more respect over there. Because ultimately, the countries like Pakistan and Afghanistan are more on the side of the people who are basically uh, like who's are basically does follow the Islamic, right? So in the Islamic, whosoever is the elder person, they have to have a power and influence over the community they are serving to. Okay, so
Yes.
whosoever from the military basically the group of the people who are looking in the Pakistan who has now declared something like declare their independence. So in the Pakistan, what is happening is that there is a military, there is no government, but someone from the military has become the leader there, and who is ruling the country, who is ruling the portion of the country. Okay, the Pakistan area. Is it okay?
Yes.
By the self-appointed mean either the individuals or the people of that country would be choosing which one would become the leader. Other way would be that self-appointed either by the military corps. In that case, it would be that the military is choosing one from their group itself. Okay. Hello, is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So are you clear on this 2 point? Then we move ahead.
Yes, sir.
So the political system, it could be so the dictatorship, and now we know the second point is democracy. In India, whenever there is an election at every 5 years, so the people would be having a right to vote and choose the leader for themselves, right? To choose the government for themselves. Okay. So this is basically representing the democracy. Democracy is itself a word that represents the people would be having a right to choose. The people would be having a right to choose the leader for themselves, okay, or the government by themselves, okay. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Guys, allow me a minute. I'm coming back. Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir.
So are we done with the first and second point? Have you understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
There is one word, the governance, right? The governance is like how we are controlling and managing. In your audit and assurance paper, in your AA paper, you will see that governance is a word that talks about, that is also known as in corporate governance, right? Corporate governance. So that talks about like how the company is going to be managed and controlled. Okay.
Okay, sir.
This governance would be having the same meaning where they will be talking about how the things are going to be controlled and managing. Okay. In the separation of the power, we will be focusing on, now you know that what is the difference or what is the requirement of the separation of the power, why we require that there must be a separation of power. Would anyone of you help me revising the same thing? Why we do require, there is an, why we do require that separation of power is required and necessary? Siddhant, would it be okay to answer this question to me? Why we say that there's a requirement of the separation of power? Hello, Siddhant, are you there?
Yes.
Would you like to answer this? All right. So before we move to discuss the different of the legal systems, that understand what are the different machineries of the governments and why we need them. So by the machineries of the government, it does mean what are the ways, what are the methodologies, right? So this word which is over there, the machineries of government, it does mean the methods. Okay, Amit.
Yes, sir.
So this is basically talking about what are the methods of the governance. Okay. Now the thing I was trying to know from the Siddhant is there, and which I have been very vocal about in the very first starting of the lecture, that here's for why we need separation of power. This is basically the idea is simple, to avoid concentration of power in a single body. Concentration of the power, it does mean that concentration means this is exactly the same word that you know as in concentration. Concentration means you are very focusing on that one. Now if you read the concentration word from the English dictionary, it would mean something that you're focused to one thing, Hana? But in the law
Yes.
context, you have to interpret it a bit differently. So this is one of the difference which I have explained to you yesterday, that you have to understand things from the context of the law. So here the concentration means that the power is accumulated to one party, okay?
Okay.
So to it is basically we need a separation of power because this will help us in to avoiding the concentration of the power in a single body or single people to a single people, and prevent it from unanimously taking actions of governance which may not be beneficial for the country. So if the power is given to one party, he can take, because if he would be the only person, in that case he can take the decision for signing anything, right? So he do not need any approval from other party, yes or no? So he can take the decision whatever he thinks so. It could possible that he might take a decision which is not beneficial to a company as a whole, but he can take that decision. Is that possible or not?
Can you repeat what you said?
Okay, I was saying that if you have been given the power to make the law, to administrate the law, in that case you won't be requiring any approval from other party. You can make any decision, you can make any law by your choice. It could possible that you are making a
Yes.
law which might not be beneficial to other country or to as a whole country, but you are making that. It could possible, right?
Yes, yes.
So to avoid this possibility, there's a requirement that the powers need to be separated between the people. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Now there is one word which I want you to be very vocal about. This is known as unanimously. So the real meaning is this. It does mean consent of all parties. Okay. Okay. Consent of all
Okay,
parties.
sir.
But when you are single or when you are the only party in the power, in that case, it does mean that he can take the decision unanimously. Means he do not need a consent of other parties, right? That's why this has been added as an unanimously. So unanimously, it does mean that the single power will be the single people would not be requiring the approval from other parties because he has a right. He can do anything that he thinks so. Okay. Is it clear to you the paragraph?
Yes, sir.
So what are the different types of what? The different types of machineries of the governance. So if how the governance will be taking on, how it going to be controlled and managed, it will be having a different types. And now that we are going or looking forward to the learning these three types. And these three types will be talking about, and these three types will become the three different power and authorities. These three will become three different powers and authorities and duties which require separation of power. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Have you heard about one word parliament?
Yes.
So parliament is basically the body of legislature, right? So whatever the law which is made by the parliament is known will be known as a legislation, right? Okay. So parliament itself a legislature body. Whatever the law will be made by the parliament will known as a legislation. Okay. Now the legislation, the statute, and law are the same meaning. Okay. Is that okay? Sadhvit, are you okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Done. Now we will learn about the legislation. That was the discussion that we had is going to be in the next couple of the pages, because I have just explained to you because that is a link between this, what is a legislation, what is a legislation, right? So I just explained this to you currently. Now I will move with this legislation. So what is that? It is a body charged with making law in the country. Charged means they have given the authority, right? See, in law itself, the charge would be having different meaning. When some individual would be charged, it does mean that they are charged of doing something wrong. Okay, means he is a charge of death. Charge means implying something on some individuals. When I do say charge with this statement, it does mean that they have been given the authority to make the law. Okay, so legislature is a body which has been given the power, the authority to make the law into the country. Okay. Hello, Sadhvit,
Yes,
are
sir.
you there? Its
Yes,
member
sir.
may be appointed or elected based on whether a country is a dictatorship or democracy. Okay, what does it mean? For an example, in the case of the parliament, the member of the parliament, either it can be through the dictatorship, it can be the same leader that is coming through elected by the military, or either it can be the member from the democracy route. Democracy means the different individual or the people of that country will be electing the member, or either it can be through the dictatorship or democracy. This route that we have discussed over here, either it can be through democracy, either it can be through the dictatorship. Okay. Hello, Samvit,
Yes, sir.
Siddhant,
Yes, sir.
are you able to understand?
Yes.
It is called sovereign or supreme if it has unlimited lawmaking potency. So basically, the parliament, or basically this is a legislature body. Sometime we will say the legislature body, or sometime you will see the parliament. Both would be having the same meaning because parliament is nothing but a legislature body. Okay, so parliament is basically would be having the supreme authority. Okay, that is also known as an sovereign authority to make a law. Okay, it is called sovereign or supreme if it has unlimited lawmaking potential, right? Most countries have a subordinate legislator where the law made by the legislation are limited by the constitution of the country. The example of legislation would be the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha in the India. Okay, that was in one portion that talks about the legislation. Second portion would be about the executive. This machinery or the method or the way implement the law made by the legislature. So whatever the law which are made by the legislature, which will how they will be going to be applied, it is the duty of the executive. They basically apply or implement the laws which are made by the legislature. Okay, they constitute government, ministry, civil services, etc. Is it okay? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Then we have a judiciary. So basically, these are the people who will be sitting at the courtroom, and they will be deciding what was the case and what is the law that has been breached because of the action of that party. Okay, so it is constituted by the court, who are charged with the responsibility of protecting the law made by the legislative and those present in the constitution. Okay, constitution is basically the main documentation of any company, any country. Like we do have Constitution of India, है ना?
Yes.
So Constitution of the India, this is a book that is there that will be talking about how the law has been driven, and this is one of the main source of the prime source of the core source of the law. Okay, in countries like India, where the legislature is subordinated, the Supreme Court in the country can declare the law passed by the legislation null and void. This is not possible in the UK, where the legislation is sovereign. So there is a difference that you will be learning about. I will be explaining you right now. But they are the various different systems and the type of the law which we will discuss in the next slide. This is one thing which I wanted to have a discussion about. In countries like India, where the legislation is subordinated, the Supreme Court in country can declare the law passed by the legislation null and void. This is not possible in the UK, where the legislation is sovereign. So in the UK, hello, because we are not learning
Yes.
about the UK specific law, so we are learning from the perspective of what is happening in the global. Because ultimately the law might differ from country to country. Okay, in the UK, whatever the law is made by the parliament, okay, the court can not make it wrong. They cannot say this is a wrong. Wrong means they cannot say this is a null and void. Null and void means they are cancelling it. They are saying this is a wrong interpretation or the wrong law has been made. Okay, in the UK it cannot be said. Okay, but what court can do? Court can say this law is not applicable to the case. This is not in context, or this is not fully in the context of the requirement of the case that they are dealing. So they can say not to apply the specific law because of the context of the case, but they cannot say that the law which is made is a null and void. Okay, hello, because ultimately the parliament is a supreme authority that who can make the law. Even the court or the Supreme Court cannot say the law made by the parliament is a wrong law. Okay, but in India it can possible. Hello,
Okay, sir.
is that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
So what are the government machineries? Machineries means the ways, methodologies, you know, the practice. So there are three practice: the executive, the legislative, and judiciary. So if I ask you what is a legislative, Siddhant, would you like to answer this?
The legislative is a part of the government machinery that creates the laws. So these are the people in charge of creating the laws that the judiciary will then execute.
Okay. So execution is going to be the second step, right? And then we will be having the third step, judiciary. They basically are the decisions, or they basically rule around what is happening at the court. Okay. Hello, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Westminster model. This was one of the way which was there back in like thousands of years back. And Westminster model was that some elder people from the UK basically roams around the world, and they basically pick out the issues, okay, and then suggest a appropriate resolution to that case, whatever is happening around the world, and they came back to the UK, and they write whatever they have observed, the case and the resolution that they have suggested. So that was a model about the Westminster model, but that is something you learn into the UK variant. This is nothing going to be tested in the global variant, but as an example, I have just explained you. Okay, so it is stated that senior member of the executive should be chosen from the legislation. Okay, they basically roam around the world and they collect the information, the case, and then they just roam around the world and just came back to the UK and then decide what was happening and what were the resolution that they've suggested. The UK and India has unwritten constitutions, which means unlike USA, which has a written constitution, the constitution has not been designed. Rather, key component of it has not been formally compiled into one enactment. It has evolved over the years. So what it is mean to say that it is obviously, because ultimately the law is something that is still in the process. We are making another law today for upcoming future, right? So this is evolving over the years. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Then we come to the last point, that is a legal system, but we are less than 1 minute now, so I have to take a break. Would it be okay? Are you understood? Is there any doubt till now, Siddhant and Samvit?
Sir,
No.
in the judiciary, second point, in countries
Yes,
like
please.
India, where it is given that in India,
Samvit,
the legislature is subordinate.
Samvit, would it be okay if I answer you in the next class, because I'm less than 1 minute and maybe 20 seconds is
Okay,
there.
sir.
I might not able to answer, or may
Okay,
not
sir.
able to understand what you are trying to say. Okay, so I'm just back
Okay, sir.
in next 5 minutes. We will be meeting at 11:30 and then we'll start. Okay,
Okay, sir.
sure, okay.